Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Academic Writing Amplified. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak from Scholar's Voice, and today I want to talk about creating career impact through writing. So before we get started, I want you to know that I'm not talking about impact factor, okay? So I'm specifically and on purpose not talking about situating your publications in particular journals to increase your impact factor. That is absolutely something that some people who come through our Navigate program and many people in academia are concerned about, partially because of their requirements for promotion and tenure, which sometimes specify a certain impact factor, or publishing in journals with a certain impact factor. But what I really want to talk about is that true meaning of impact in terms of changing the lives of other people, or changing the thinking, or changing the field. Okay. And in this case, I'm talking about creating career impact for you. Okay. So there are many, many ways to create career impact, and actually many ways to create career impact using writing, right? Like you can imagine, and many of you out there are doing amazing public scholarship where you use writing in the form of a blog or of a newsletter or in traditional media or some print media or some other kind of form to really do public scholarship, right? Like that is just one of many, many ways to use writing to create career impact. If you do that type of writing, you might get called by NPR to be a guest expert or that kind of a thing. And that can be a really amazing way to get your work out into the world. But if you're listening to this podcast, you are probably wanting to create some career impact for yourself using peer-reviewed publications. So that's what I'm really going to focus on today. And again, career impact can be created in so many ways. And just one of them is through peer-reviewed publications. But that's the one I'm going to talk about today. All right. So, because I do think you found this podcast for a reason, and I want to make sure that I'm addressing, right, those kind of particular needs of people who might be listening to an academic writing podcast. So, peer-reviewed publications help align your outward impact with the impact you know that your work can have on your field if only more people knew about it. Or if only there was some kind of citable publication out there with your name on it, right? So what do I mean by that? That alignment of your outward impact with the impact you kind of know that you can have. So I think that a lot of you are overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that you have to do as part of your tenure track job. There's teaching, there's research, there's service, there's mentoring students, there's so many things, and that's just part of as your job. That what happens as a result of that kind of too muchness of the kind of number of to-dos on your list and things that you're responsible for, one result that can happen, and again, one reason why you might have found this podcast, is that your publication pipeline is backed up. That's a metaphor for sure. What I mean by publication pipeline is all the writing projects that you have in play. What I mean by in play is Maybe it's not even an outline or a draft or figures yet. Maybe it's just, okay, I have this analyzed data and the article I know is going to be about this. That still is in the pipeline to me. So all the possible publications that you have in play. And what happens is that because we are overworked, because we are overextended, because maybe we've said yes too many times, we end up with a backlog of papers that we need to get out. When that has been going on for a little too long, your outward impact is no longer in line with kind of like your behind the scenes impact, or the impact that you are making, but nobody knows about or nobody can cite because your publications aren't out there. So one of the reasons that I think it's important to clear your pipeline and get those publications out is that it helps you align that kind of possible outward impact, or that outward impact, with the impact you know you can have. And it's really frustrating, especially for many academics who are ambitious. We're ambitious. We're like, we want to do the thing. Like, we got into this because we have things to say. And then to kind of be silenced by the sheer like overwork and busy that is the tenure track career. That can be really, really frustrating. And it creates this mismatch between kind of who you feel you are, your identity, your self-identity as a scholar, versus how you appear to the world because of a lack of publications on your CV. So that prestige that you're looking for, or well, that impact, right, that you're looking for is out of alignment between what the world sees and what you are doing. Again, in relation to this very specific area of creating impact through peer-reviewed publications. There's many, many other ways to create impact. So that's one. Another one is that you can leverage publications into grants for increased career impact and increased impact in general, right? So leveraging publications into grants means that, at some point in your grant writing journey or your grant getting journey, if you don't publish the results of your previous grants, you will not be able to get, or you will be even less likely to get, future grants. So one of the things that we have to do, and I have a podcast episode about the kind of this vicious cycle between publishing your results and getting next grants and writing grants, right? Like it's like a cycle that can feel very overwhelming and a little bit oppressive. But one of the ways to create career impact through writing is to get your publications out so that you are showing the granting agencies that you are doing the work and that their funding has created these peer-reviewed publications in the world. And another way to create career impact through writing is to leverage those publications into future grants. You're showing the granting agency you've done this work before, maybe that you have preliminary data, maybe you have stage 1 data and you're ready for stage 2, and that's what you're asking for funding for, that kind of thing. All right, more ways that you can create career impact through writing. You might want to change jobs, right? Like you might be at a certain type of institution. Maybe you're at an R1 and you actually want to move to a Slack, or vice versa. Maybe you're at like an aspirational university and you want to move to an R1. There's lots of different types of universities and colleges, and maybe you're somewhere looking to make a move somewhere else. Regardless, truly and illogically, I will say, regardless of where you're trying to move, publications are important. So even if you're trying to move from a community college to a Slack, which neither of those places gives the same weight to publications as like a Research One university would, even so, you still need to have publications on your CV, because that is that mark of achievement. For better or for worse, we could definitely go into judging that and we would have good arguments. But the reality is that if you want to be mobile, the currency of mobility is publications. So you might be looking for like a more fulfilling academic position. You might be looking to move geographic regions. There's like a ton of different reasons why you might move from tenure track job to tenure track job. And I'll say, and I think this is dying, but traditionally, there has been this idea that you get the tenure track job. It is so prized and precious that, of course, you're going to stay there for 30 years. And I think that that idea is dying. And mostly because people no longer want that. Like professors will no longer tolerate certain things because they're like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'll do something else. Well, if you want to stay in academia, having those publications out on your CV is going to really help you to be as mobile as you want to be. And again, showing the job committees, the hiring committees, the impact of your work in a certain way, in a very narrowly defined way, but it's a big impact for your career. And remember, what I'm talking about is for you to create career impact through your writing. And one way to do it, having those publications out so that you can be moving to the most fulfilling academic position that you want to be in, either physical location, type of job, rank, whatever one of those things hits home for you. That would have a big impact on your life if you have those publications. And so you can make these different choices about where to go and what to do and have that more control and more power to change your situation. It could be really impactful for you. So those are all the ways, and there are many more, that writing and publishing peer-reviewed work can create career impact for you. So let me dig into kind of like what might be happening for you right now. Why aren't you creating that career impact that you want through your publications right now? Well, many tenure track academics, and certainly pre-tenure, early career tenure track faculty, are in this fallacy of more is more. And so the potential impact of your publications is actually diluted. Again, like very understandably, the potential impact of your publications is diluted by the desire to just publish everything and anything. So you have data from your PhD, you have data from a postdoc, you have new data you've collected. You have all of these things. Maybe you even have data from like a PhD course that you wanted to get out. I remember that was true for me until I finally let that go. But right now, if you are just trying to publish anything and everything, the potential impact of your publications on your career is diluted. That's because you're like going for quantity instead of impact on your career. You're trying to publish things, many, many things. You're going for numbers instead of going for the impact that you can have on your career. And again, understandably, because we are raised inside of an academic culture of scarcity. There's never enough money. There's never enough publications. There's never enough space. We are just raised with like, don't ask for too much because there's never enough. And if you want to get promoted, we don't know what the number is. It's just more, more, more. It's understandable that we try to publish everything and anything, but I'm going to circle back. I'm going to list a couple of more things that might be happening, and then I'm going to circle back to a nice, impactful truth that you can apply, I hope, to your career. So you're going for quantity of publications instead of impact of publications on your career. You are believing in the fallacy of sunk costs. So this is one of my favorites. It's so hard. It's so hard for us to understand, but publications that are potential publications, but that are not going to create impact. In fact, what they'll create is they will dilute your impact. Those publications need to be blessed and released, right? Instead of having this thinking, no, I put so much work into it, and if I don't publish it, I will lose all of that time and energy that I spent. The reason it's called the sunk cost fallacy is that your time and energy are costs that you cannot get back. And unfortunately, what happens is you can't get it back, and you're actually making the impact of the publications on your career worse by publishing just like anything and everything and not having a very clear message in your publications. Maybe also you're a little bit afraid to put your flag in the sand and really tell the world and your field who you really are. Like, I am a person who writes about this thing. Again, you're just going for publications because you're afraid to like take a strong stance and say, no, this is who I am and what I'm about. If you take a strong stance and create very clear, focused, targeted messaging through your peer-reviewed publications, those publications have the potential to make a greater impact on your career. Okay, why? So I mentioned 3 things here, and I'm going to really explain this and hopefully convince you about how to use publications to impact your career. So I said that you're trying to publish for quantity, not impact on your career. You are believing the fallacy of sunk costs. You don't want to cut things from your pipeline because you already spent time or energy on them. And you're afraid to put your flag in the sand and really like stand up and say, this is who I am and what I'm about. Now, what happens when those 3 things, or even 2 or 1 of those 3 things is true, is that you end up with your publications kind of sending this diluted message to the world, not delusional, diluted, message to the world about who you are and what you're about. And when you do that, it's harder to use those publications to create like clear career impact. You don't want anybody to be confused about who you are and what you do. You want to be very, very referable. So when people are talking about like, oh, who does this kind of work? You come immediately to mind. That's kind of like something we used to call it. I don't know if people still use the term academic branding. I certainly used to use it quite a lot. But it's that idea of you become like very referable because it's very clear to other people what you do. You're not like, oh, I work in this general field and I do a little bit of everything. That curse of being a generalist. It's okay to be a generalist if you're not trying to use publications to impact your career, to create career impact. If you're fine where you are and you're not trying to make changes or level up in your career, which is absolutely acceptable, totally fine. But if you are trying to use publications to create impact on your career, then you have to have a very narrow focus and a very clear message to the world about who you are and what you do. And the way that you, in academia, the way that you create that message to the world is through your peer-reviewed publications. In other fields, right, like in business, yeah, you would have a marketing team and you would have brand colors and you would have messaging and you have a slogan and all these things, right? Like, and you would communicate your brand to the world through advertising and marketing and whatever. But we're academics. And the way that we communicate the message about our careers and our work and what it's about is through peer-reviewed publications. Now, again, let me say, one way that we do that is that there are other ways. Today, I'm talking about career impact through peer-reviewed publications. Okay. So what is the point that I'm getting to? I am getting to this point. Curation equals impact. Okay. Curation equals impact. The more curated your pipeline is, the more curated your time is, the more impactful your publications will have on your career. So if what you're trying to do is use your peer-reviewed publications to make your career better and have impact on your career, then having a curated pipeline where you have selected what goes in instead of just publishing everything is key. A curation of publications. You're not going for quantity. You're going for impact on your career. How do we do this? Like, what does that look like? What does curation look like? Well, in Navigate, you will get crystal clear on who you are and who you want to be as a creator of impact in your field by writing the academic mission statement. And then you use the academic mission statement to design your career for maximum impact. A curated pipeline, a curated weekly calendar, and thus more publications, because curation equals impact. If you are wondering, like, how am I going to do this? What is she talking about? I would love for you to get on the wait list for Navigate so you can get more information the next time that we enroll. Navigate helps tenure-track women and non-binary professors with a disruptive perspective on their field to create career impact through writing and publishing more. By the end of the 12-week program, you will submit one of those papers that's been clogging up your pipeline. You'll also have vastly curated your pipeline by the end of the 12 weeks. So in the process of doing the 12-week program, you'll curate your pipeline and your calendar so that you can publish your backlog of papers so that your voice can have the impact that you know is possible. So if you're ready to create career impact through publications, get on the wait list. You just have to go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find the pink button to get on the wait list. You can do this. You can overcome the fear of, I need to publish everything and everything. You can go for impact over quantity. You can let go of projects that are no longer serving you, and you can put your flag in the sand and say, this is what I really want to tell the world. This is who I am. This is what I'm working on right now. And this is my little corner of knowledge making or big corner of knowledge making where I am going to concentrate all my energy and efforts. When you do that, you will align your outward impact with the impact that you know that your work can have in your field. You'll be able to leverage publications into grants. And if it's right for you to make a move, you will have the CV that can help you find a more fulfilling academic position because you will have that slate of publications. And what an impact those things would have on you. So here's to the most impactful career that you want to create. Here's to you curating for greater impact. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.